Hey everybody, welcome tonight. I was thinking a lot today about, I was thinking a lot today about how, like, what's the one conversation that I would hope that most people could really connect with that has nothing to do with a partisan perspective or whatnot. And it's been something that I've kind of focused on my Facebook page, on some of the Facebook lives that I've done, and different comments that I do uh, with social media. The thing that at the end of the day that I really focus on and try to raise awareness to is human trafficking. And it seems that, and I listen to all different sides of the conversation. I hear it all the time with media or with individuals, politicians, business people, climate change people, social justice warriors. There's so many different camps of thought for specific issues. And the problem is that most people stay in their echo chamber because they're afraid to listen to other camps, even listen to them, because even giving an ear to another camp is like treasonous, you know? And I've been really trying to encourage people to listen to all the different camps of thought and then create your own conclusion. But that's scary for a lot of people. So I figured tonight, if you don't mind, I'm going to talk a bit about what I've heard and seen from all the different camps that I follow, whether they're extreme liberal or extreme conservative, whether they're in the middle or they have no idea, or they're just simply looking for the bottom line for economics, and they don't. And everyone has a different definition of what that is, human trafficking. So tonight we're going to talk about it. Let's do it. Okay. Human trafficking. Ooh, that's a heavy word, isn't it? It's one cousin. It's like the step up cousin from slavery, right? And a lot of liberals, I don't identify. I'm not. I don't label myself at all. I just listen. I take an issue. I listen to all of it, and then I come to my own conclusion. Um, as far as the extreme liberals go, this is what's interesting. Um, all of my friends that are extremely liberal, they are very much against the idea of slavery, inherent in systematic racism. They they want to help people. They want to help people, right? But there's some sort of veil that drops on the extreme liberal side that doesn't see that it's everywhere, and it's most inherently happening in the liberal conversation of society. And I want to tell you how that happens. With Hollywood, with the sex trade, with pushing this idea of being a free person by expressing your sexuality, or on the extreme liberalism of equality, this extreme utopian, almost communistic idealism of saying that we're all equal inherently and we all deserve the same exact treatment in all cases. I want to kind of break some eggs with those marketed ideas, those nice little bumper stickers that people put on their cars to make them feel that they are a good person. Let's first talk about the idea of Hollywood. Hollywood is so duplicitous in its conversation. For instance, it always pushes violent movies, and yet they're the first ones to talk about gun control. Jason Bourne made how much money? Hostel, Saw, all the different CIA gang-oriented movies. Let's go into music. Pushing gangster rap. How much money do they make on that? And yet they're the same people that talk about anti-violence. It's one aspect. It goes deeper than that. In Hollywood, they talk about how the Me Too thing, and yet they're constantly pushing the pimp and hoe for women as a dynamic. What is that all about? And pushing the idea of sexuality being an economy. It's 100% completely invested. The biggest underbelly in Hollywood is porn. If you go onto Craigslist in Los Angeles and you look up gigs, look up talent, 95% of what they call talent is looking for girls or boys that are willing to pose nude or do kink in all kinds of different variations. And because there's so many people now that are hungry to become famous or hungry to become successful, the more supply you have, the less it pays. Now, 50 years ago, there weren't many people that were willing to do the kind of gnarly stuff that people are able to do, that are willing to do now. So girls or boys that were willing to do pretty gnarly stuff, sexual exploitation, whatnot, they got paid a little bit better. Now, you pose in all kinds of different ways. You get involved with porn, you get involved with all these different things. You might get $100 in a day. That's like working for Target. That's human trafficking. It's a form of human trafficking because it's the sex industry. But the sex sells. How many times have we heard that? We've been hearing that since the 70s. Sex sells, sex sells, sex sells. Well, if you sexualize all the kids when they're young, it's going to sell, but it's going to be cheaper. It's the Walmart mentality. That's human trafficking. When you devalue people's dignity to a base level, and then because of competition, because everybody is willing to do it now, because they're so impoverished in their minds, they're living in a survival mode, because rent's expensive, especially in most major cities. I mean, rent is 3 times as expensive for a place than what an individual can afford. Okay? If you've got the average rent being $1,200 a month, and decent food is going to cost you at least $500 a month, your gas is probably $300 a month. I mean, every basic supposed modern necessity is way beyond the means of what you're going to get paid for an average job. You're going to go into survival mode, and you're going to find different things that you have to do. Not necessarily as part of your ultimate dignified conversation in the world. You're going to find ways to make it happen. That's human trafficking. The leaders and the owners, the big business people, the Wall Street people, the government, they know this. I know they know this. I've had arguments with a few about this whole topic, okay? In my little world, I deal with people very high to very low, whatever you want to call it, you know? And I've had arguments about this. It's exploitation. It's not the market runs society. It's exploitation. And then it happens in not necessarily just the sex trade, which is huge. I mean, that's like the biggest. I'm back. Okay. So there's a reason why the drug trade goes right hand in hand with sex trafficking, because you need to be on drugs to handle that kind of environment. Or sometimes, in order to get people into that environment, they use the drugs to get them in the first place. But human trafficking is not just as dark as the unbelievable things that happened in Thailand. I mean, things that happen definitely in America, no doubt. It happens everywhere. Human trafficking can also be redefined as this. And this is important for people that connect on the liberal conversation of life. The same leaders that call themselves progressives, the same leaders that say that they're for human dignity on the Democratic side. I'm just going to say the Democratic side right now, because there's also Republicans. The Bush were highly involved in this as well. Okay, so this is definitely a nonpartisan conversation. So please don't trigger out and tune out when I basically say right now, most of the people that are protecting human trafficking are on the Democratic side. It is unfortunate, but it's true. Deal with it. And if you are an independent mind and you don't label yourself first before finding out the issues, good for you. You're a wise person. So human trafficking is also the idea of going into a country or infiltrating your own country to make people devalue themselves, whether it's through war, whether it's through psyop of, we'll talk about war first, because trying to explain war and then psyop is a little bit too heavy to try to put in one conversation. So let's first talk about war. Most recently Syria, before then Afghanistan, before then Iraq, before then Vietnam, before then Korea. When you cause chaos and a culture shock of non-peace, where everyone is just thrown into fear and destruction and loss of anything that creates abundance, people are going to go into complete panic mode. And those that cause that in the first place benefit, but they don't want to look like the bad guys. So what they'll do in their own country is say, we're helping these people. Somehow, we don't know how, somehow this war happened. CIA went in there and screwed shit up. And then went, oops, now we got a war. Sweet! Halliburton's going to make a crap ton of money. You see? And who makes the money? The same people that are going, oh, on the nice pedestals and whatnot, and going, oh, we've got to go into this country and save them, and we've got to be the good guys. What ends up happening is that they reframe everything to people that are listening to them and trusting them. They'll say, well, now we're responsible for all these people that are now disheveled. They're now called refugees, and we need to replace them into our own countries. And the public that generally has a good heart, or they want to have a good heart in some way, shape, or form, they go, well, sure, let's help them. But we don't follow the trail to the end. And I'm going to take you to that trail to the end, okay? Once they get into that country, they are used as fodder to lessen the value of any other job, of all kinds of things. Because now you've got people that are willing to do anything for a dollar. They're not living out their conscience because they're in fear mode. Okay? And our country doesn't recognize that because we also live in fear mode. Right? We're all in fear mode. So, example, a carpenter 90 years ago was able to live in a very nice house, have a full family on one income, live very well because he was valued for what he did. Now, carpenters are day workers. They get picked up on the side of the road, they work for $10 an hour, and they get dropped off, and there is no accountability for their work. Major home builders use this tactic to save a ton of money on their bottom line. It's the Walmart living, Walmart mentality. The value of human life is like this. Is that freedom? That's human trafficking. That's human trafficking. Let's talk about other variations of human trafficking. There's nonprofits that are set up that say that they're helping people, but they're part of the whole military-industrial complex, and they profit from moving these people around, breaking up families, breaking up homes. Let's talk about the idea of right now equality that a lot of supposed liberal progressives talk about. And by the way, I just want to say, when it comes to progressives, if you're down for an individual or individuals that have been in office for 60 years under the CIA and the military-industrial complex, that's not progressive. That's not progressive. What is your, what? That's establishment. And what has the establishment shown us? War. And everything that we fight against. So there's got to be a bridge between the individuals within the right and the left to see that same understanding. Because I listen to people, and I've got friends on both sides, and honestly, you're not that different unless you're literally a Satanist. There's people that care about the environment, but on the liberal side, but the liberal side thinks that the right side doesn't care about the environment. Of course they do. 100%. There's people on the right side that think that the liberals are crazy for trying to protect water. No, we need water. We need fresh, clean water that's free. I mean, that's life right there. If you create a commerce of free water, we're screwed. You have people on the left that are very wealthy in Los Angeles or in California that instead of paying someone a decent value of their worth as an assistant for what they do, or maybe they work on their farm, they pay them nothing. They get someone from another country, South America or whatnot, and they pay them nothing, and yet they get on their high horse about being a progressive, caring, a quality, organized person. If you are a wealthy person in California and you are looking for the cheapest help possible, and you are down with that, that's human trafficking. The idea of equality, everyone's pushing this idea on the liberal side of equality. What they don't understand their leaders are trying to say ultimately is that they want you to be equal in pay, equal in value to the lowest denominator, so that no matter what you do, you will get $10 an hour. You will get the same equal horrible treatment in sickness maintenance, healthcare. You will, no matter what your individual thoughts are that could really lift up people and could inspire a whole new economy or a whole new wave of thinking in this world, you're not allowed to do that, because we all need to be thinking the exact same, which is the most base possible. That is why they're always pushing creating bestiality in the human mind through porn, through desensitized gaming, you know, like all those different video games that you create a psychopath by killing everybody all the time. If they know this, if you can desensitize the mind of empathy and compassion and really valuing the dignity of other people, and you know, not just yourself but other people, if you can break that, then everyone's going to be down with human trafficking. It's like that scene in Batman. I can't remember. I think it was like Dark Knight Rises. I think that was the one when he was in the pit. Remember when he was in the pit and there was just like complete darkness, and these people were just living in just this awful reality, but they, because it's familiar, they may know on some level that there might be something better, but they're not going to let, if they can't do it themselves, they're not going to let any individual get there. Even if the individual will get up there and inspire them to learn how to get there too. No. They're going to take them down, and they're going to keep them down. That's human trafficking. That's the mentality of... And there are people that tend to be on the right that get it. They get it. And they're smeared. They're smeared all day long. And I really hope that somehow, some way, the smearing campaign stops, and individuals that are living in this hellish concept of neo-progressive liberalism that's actually funded by real Nazis like George Soros, the exact kind of person that you would think you'd be against in the first place, that you start listening to certain people that have a lot of common sense about seeing individual issues in the world, and get rid of the labels and understand. Listen, like in Pittsburgh, it breaks my heart that there are certain people that I know that I care about that have been systematically indoctrinated into a conversation that their ultimate art and their ultimate value and their ultimate identity is through exploiting their sexuality to an unbelievably debased level. And they're funded by CMU, they're funded by the city. City paper says that they're like the best artists to come up. And I care about these people. I really do. Like, I love them, I hug them, we talk. Again, I don't isolate. In my world, I don't isolate, you know. But they know where I stand on certain things. But they know I care about them. And to have to watch them be systematically acclimated in debasing themselves, and they feel good about it because people like them, and they're getting honors and they're being told they're a great artist because of what they're doing. That's human trafficking. That's another form of human trafficking. It's exploitation. It's loss of dignity. It's loss of the mind first. You know? These institutions know that. I mean, CMU is run by the CIA. I've said it before and I'll say it again. And if they can get an entire generation to debase themselves and celebrate it, it's human trafficking. You got an entire generation of kids that have spent top dollar on getting a supposed education, and now they're completely in debt, and now they have to vie for any little thing that's going to give them any little bit of money to survive. That's human trafficking. You've got people in Libya that are literally on a slave block, being sold to the highest bidder, to be used and abused in the worst way possible. That's the extreme. That's the extreme. But I don't hear any liberals talking about Libya. Why? Why aren't any of my friends that are liberals or self-identified as liberal, why aren't any of you talking about Libya? Are you afraid of actually talking about the issue because the issue was created by the Democratic Party? Come on, have some balls. If you really are liberal, you really care about what you say you care about, talk about Libya. Have your leaders be accountable for what they do. Let's talk about it. Why don't any of the liberals talk about the Children of God cults and what they did to little children? Why don't they talk about it? Why don't the liberals and my friends that are liberals, why don't you talk about sex trafficking? You know exactly what's going on in Hollywood. You know exactly what's going on. Why don't you care? Is it because you're afraid that you're going to be called a conservative? F that. You want to think that I'm a conservative because I talk about that? Don't label me. I just care about people. You know? And if people that are conservative listen to me more than the liberals, then great. If you want to call me a conservative because I'm a Christian, whatever. The only reason I become a Christian is because I've seen the dark side of everything else that goes on that says that it's good and it's not. Hello. There doesn't have to be labels. There just has to be awareness and care. And I mean, and if the party is so debased that they're willing to hide child trafficking and organ trafficking, you better get your head on straight, because that's how deep it goes. You know, you want to talk about human trafficking to the darkest levels. It goes as dark as child trafficking, sex trafficking, and organ trafficking. It goes that dark. Why isn't anyone on the liberal side talking about that? Are you afraid? Because that's real exploitation. I couldn't imagine a more cohesive thing to be against for anyone that's on any party than that. But the problem is that sometimes we listen too hard to our leaders and we don't follow the money of what our leaders are doing to create an entire lifetime of sucking off society. We don't follow the money. We don't follow their connections. We don't follow what they're really into. And maybe we do that because we just simply want to have a job. We want to live out our dream. We don't want to make any waves. We don't want our community to not like us. I get it. I get it. It's okay. But at some point, and this is the point, right now is the time to talk about it. If there ever was a time, this is the time. And there's nothing more important than if you're upset about the economy, which I hear everybody, right, left, upside down, downside, right, whatever you are, everyone's upset about the economy and not being able to exist in this world without a lot of survival mode. Okay, that's human trafficking. We're all in it. We're all in it right now. So let's have honest conversations about it and then start valuing each other. And how can we do that? All right, so there's the problem. I hope that I covered, I hope I covered every aspect of it. It's a lot. There's one, buying cheap products. That's a big one. Because if you're someone who wants to lift people up, but you're buying super cheap products that you know were made from people that are like existing in nothing, come on. Another way of human trafficking is as simple as this. You're in your own neighborhood and you'll pay top dollar for like a BMW, but then you'll pay a pet sitter $10 for like 3 hours of work. That's human trafficking. Or you'll try to guilt someone or shame them into doing something for free, but then you'll go and spend a ton of money at like Lord and Taylor. That's human trafficking. That's not valuing another human being. That's not valuing that's not the generosity of spirit of going, I really value you being there for me and helping me, and I can count on you. So let me be generous of spirit and generous of finances to show you how much you mean to me. No, it's how can I get a steal? How can I siphon this person's energy for as little as possible? That's human trafficking. Ooh. That's going to be an ugly thing for some people to think about. Because there's a lot of people that do that, don't they? Ooh, convicted. Just going to sit with that for a minute. I'm just going to sit with that for a minute. Okay, we sat with it. It's there. So how can we change it? People that are really good to you, people that are really there for you, value them. I have a friend in Alabama who has one of the biggest hearts you could ever imagine. And she told me this story of how someone promised her this job working on their farm that they had in their backyard. And she was going to be in charge of this whole thing. They very quickly completely devalued her and put her in a shack without any AC. And Alabama is hot as hell. No AC. And this woman's in her 50s. Okay? She didn't have a bathroom. They told her to go to the bathroom in a bucket. This is... What? Excuse me? This is someone like you and me. Excuse me? They didn't pay her because they always found reasons to say that she was using more of their resources to help the farm, so that they'd be like, well, you know, you used a lot of water on our garden, so we can't pay you as much. Excuse me? This is the mentality of human trafficking. It's exploiting people taking advantage of people, lessening their dignity, giving them shackles instead of opportunities to blossom. Think about that. Do we put shackles on each other more than we allow each other to blossom, fully blossom? In your own life, do you put shackles on the people that maybe you're envious of and you want to tear down because you want them to stay at your level? Or no matter what level you're at, if you see someone that you care about, regardless if they're going to go beyond you, do you lift them up and you want to create them to blossom because you inherently want to see them be at their best? So there's that. There's that. I had a conversation the other night with a few boys that are some down-home rock and rollers or whatever, and they were talking about porn and porn on their phone. And I get shocked by it because, you know, I have never been into it at all. I think it's really lame, and it disassociates people from actual, real, intimate relationships. So I'm just, I don't even, I actually maybe watched 5 minutes of that my entire life. And I forget, I get to the point where I forget how many people are like secretly, whether they're Christian, whether they're what, everybody is watching this stuff, and I forget. And I was shocked. I was like, "You guys watch porn on your phone?" I mean, I'm not trying to be weird, but really? And they're like, they looked at me like, "You don't, or you've never heard that before, or is that something?" And see, that's human trafficking. That's sex trafficking. That's exploitation of people. The people that get involved with that, whether they want to pretend like it's a positive thing or not, they're doing it for survival mode, to pay their rent. Because there's nothing better for them to do in their world that they think they can do that will pay their rent. That's human trafficking. And it's a huge business, and we all get into it. And then all of us get into this thing of like, why isn't the world a better place? What are you focusing your energy on? I'm tired of it. And you know what I'm really tired of, especially, is as a woman, when you walk down a street, you can see people looking at you through their mentality of what they've watched on that stuff. And it's gross. It's really gross. And that's exploitation too. So, I hope after all this talk that maybe people on the left and the right and up and down and sideways and whatever start looking at issues for what they are, not through the framing of what a party tells you you're supposed to frame it as. You know, we're finding out a lot that the majority of people that are saying that they're for human rights are, and like all these nonprofits for kids and all this other stuff, they're actually totally on the opposite side. And you got to look at your leaders that are against the bill that President Trump just put out, saying we're going to shut down anyone that's dealing with human trafficking. Regardless of how you feel about President Trump, he's the only president in history that's fully acknowledged this idea of human trafficking, and he's stopping it. And that's why all these pedophiles are getting exposed. That's why MS-13 is getting exposed. That's why all of these corrupt politicians and business people and people in Hollywood are getting exposed. If you think he's a sadist and you think he's a masochist because you're listening to the echo chambers of media outlets that are owned by the human trafficking sources, think again. It's fine. No one's perfect. No one's perfect, and you're not going to like everybody. But if you've got a leader that's willing to stand up for that, respect. There may be other things. Focus on the issues. And if you've got a problem with it, send him a message. And in a dignified way. And be like, look, this is what I'm thinking. But human trafficking, that's a big deal. That's a big deal for everybody. Because we shouldn't be devaluing everybody into 5 cents an hour. We should be lifting up everybody into seeing their best value possible. That's what I like to do. I like to get to know people and find out what they really love, like what really lifts their spirit, like what's their real joy in life, and encourage that, regardless if it seems as impractical as possible. I don't care. I believe in people, and I've watched people create amazing worlds for themselves and create abundance for themselves on just living out their dream. And if I can give an encouraging word or create a platform for them to be able to do that or whatever, and I don't have much, you know, I don't have much, but somehow it happens. And it makes me really happy. You know, I'm not competing for that attention. I like to lift other people up. So think about that. It's 42 minutes. Ooh, I can talk, I know. But at the end of the day, let's really look at the people that are hiding the real stories of what's going on. And just remember, this is really important, the CIA has historically, since its inception, always gone into different countries to create discord in order to ultimately destroy the society, in order to siphon off the milkshake of the society. And that's what's happening right now in America. I know it for sure. So let's be wise, and let's fight it by loving on each other in a, not in a sexual way, in a human agape way, and care about each other and be kind and listen and talk and see each other's humanity, and don't let the reframing of perspectives get in the way from listening to each other. Use your critical thinking. It's so important. At the end of the day, if we can't be against human trafficking and the exploitation of people, the exploitation of our resources, the exploitation